The table shook when Maddie flipped it, not from rage, but from cold, precise calculation. Plates with scraps of herb-roasted chicken, half-empty glasses of Chardonnay, tiny candles and crystal holders, all crashed to the floor with a thunderous shatter. But she didn't even look back. Her eyes were locked on Aunt Linda's face, now pale as the linen tablecloth Linda herself had chosen for this family reconciliation. "You thought I'd forget?" Maddie whispered, and in that whisper rang something far more dangerous than a scream. "You thought the past could just be swept under the rug like crumbs after dinner?" Linda stepped back, clutching her wineglass as if it could shield her from the consequences of what she'd done 15 years ago. A thick silence filled the dining room, dense as swamp fog. Behind Maddie, the others froze. Her cousins, older cousin Emily, Uncle Walter with his ever-present cigar. No one moved. No one dared intervene. Because they all knew, this wasn't just another family fight. This was the beginning of reckoning. And it had started long before this night, on the day Maddie was 13 and her mother, Sarah, lay in a hospital bed with pneumonia, unaware that her own sister had already booked a one-way ticket for the future orphan. Maddie had always believed family was a fortress. Her mother Sarah and Aunt Linda grew up in poverty, but despite everything, they remained inseparable. After their parents died, they swore an oath no one will ever tear us apart. They rented a small apartment in suburban Phoenix, worked as waitresses on opposite shifts so one was always home with little Maddie. Sarah dreamed of opening a bakery. Linda wanted to become an interior designer. Maddie remembered them sitting on the kitchen floor, cutting pictures of their dreams from old magazines, laughing until tears streamed down their faces over what their shared home would look like, by a lake, with a balcony and a parrot in a cage. But dreams rarely survive reality. When Sarah fell ill, Linda seemed like a guardian angel. She nursed her day and night, made broths, ironed sheets. Maddie believed her aunt was her second angel. Then one day, Linda took her to summer camp. It turned out to be a foster home in Utah. "You'll be safe there while Mom recovers," she said, kissing Maddie's forehead and tucking a jar of homemade cookies into her backpack. A week later, Sarah died, and Maddie stayed in Utah for 2 years. By the time Maddie returned, she was 15, and no one was waiting. The apartment was gone. The bakery never opened. Linda had since married a wealthy contractor, lived in a mansion outside Tucson, and had already given birth to a son, a real heir, neighbors whispered. Maddie was placed in a group home, then sent to a distant aunt in Ohio, who looked at her like misplaced luggage from the past. She didn't cry, didn't scream. She simply learned to keep everything inside, like a poisonous seed. Now she was 32. A lawyer in Chicago, owner of her own firm specializing in family litigation. The irony wasn't lost on her. Betrayal had taught her how to break other families. But she'd always known someday she'd return. And then Linda would learn what it felt like to be abandoned, without a home, without a name, without a past. And that day had come. The invitation arrived a week before Thanksgiving. An elegant card with gold trim, family dinner. All is forgiven. All is forgotten. Let's start over. Signed, loving Aunt Linda. Maddie smirked at the envelope. Start over? She thought. Perfect. Let's start where you left off. She arrived without luggage. Just a small bag holding documents, dozens of pages collected over years. Bank statements, death certificates, letters from the foster home, and most importantly, the will Sarah had signed, which, as it turned out, had never been read. Because Linda had lost it. Dinner unfolded exactly as scripted. Wine flowed freely. Uncle Walter told fishing jokes. Linda's son, Brandon, showed off engagement photos with a girl from a good family. Maddie stayed quiet, smiled, nodded. But inside, she was already tearing them apart one by one. Then Linda raised her glass. To family. To being together again. That was the signal. Maddie stood, walked to the sideboard, the very one that once held Sarah's teacups, and opened the top drawer. She pulled out an envelope. "You forgot to give me something, Auntie," she said, tossing it onto the tablecloth. Linda paled. "What is this?" "The will. Mom's. Signed 2 weeks before she died. Notarized. And with one very important clause, all assets and property shall pass to my daughter Madeline, under the guardianship of my sister Linda until she reaches adulthood." Silence struck like thunder. You couldn't have found it." Linda gasped. I didn't need to look. I waited. Waited for you to invite me back into this house yourself. Because now that all the witnesses are here, I can prove you didn't just steal my childhood, you stole the inheritance that was meant to secure my future. Brandon jumped up. This is insane. We have legal documents. The house, the accounts, they're all properly titled. Properly, by your standards, Maddie smiled. But not by the law. I filed a lawsuit 3 days ago. On Monday, the court will freeze every asset tied to Sarah Mitchell's name. Including this house. Including your design studio. Including your son's engagement ring, bought with money that should have paid for my college. Linda collapsed into her chair. You want to destroy us? No, Maddie said softly. I want you to feel exactly what I felt at 13, when I woke up in a stranger's house and realized no one was waiting for me anymore. The air in the dining room thickened like tar. Candles crackled, marking each frozen second. Maddie stood amid the wreckage, not just of porcelain, but of illusions that had once held this family together. She felt no gloating. Only exhaustion deep, scorched from within. What she was doing wasn't vengeance in the classic sense. It was justice reconstructed. Restoring an order shattered 15 years ago. You had no right, Linda rasped, lifting eyes filled not with remorse, but fury. You don't understand, I did it for you. For me. Maddie laughed, but there was no warmth in it. You sent me to a stranger's house where I was forced to pray 3 hours a day and had my mother's photo taken from me. You called it temporary. But you didn't even attend Sarah's funeral. You sent a card that said, mourning with you. With me? You weren't mourning at all. You were already buying furniture for your new house. Uncle Walter stood slowly, heavily, like an old ship leaving dry dock. Listen, Maddie. You're right. Sarah deserved better. But Linda wasn't a monster. She had debts. She paid your insurance, your clothes. Insurance. Maddie pulled a folder from her bag and dropped it on the table. Here are the records. You sent money while the guardianship board was watching. Then silence. Not a cent. Not a call. Nothing. And when I wrote you at 18, asking if I could visit for summer break, you replied, you're an adult now. Live your own life. Emily, her older cousin, spoke for the first time. But you became successful. You didn't even need us. Success doesn't erase pain, Emily. I'm not complaining that I didn't get your love. I'm saying you stole my right to it. You stole my home. My memories. My mother, in her final week, when I should have held her hand instead of writing letters no one ever sent. Brandon clenched his fists. You want to take everything? This house? Mom's savings? The business? Do you think that gives you back your childhood? No. But it forces you to face what you did. Because until now, you've lived as if nothing happened, as if everything you took was yours by right. He stepped toward her, but Linda sharply raised her hand. Enough. She stood. Her face trembled, but her eyes held something new, not fear or anger, but a weariness nearly identical to Maddie's. You're right, Linda said quietly. I didn't send you to Utah out of malice. I sent you because I couldn't bear watching you lose your mother. I was losing Sarah too and didn't know how to survive. I thought if you were far away, you wouldn't see me fall apart. I thought I was protecting you. Maddie said nothing. And then, I couldn't undo it. I was afraid you'd hate me. And now, you're here. And you do. I don't hate you, Maddie replied. I just don't believe you anymore. Linda sank back into her chair, hands shaking as she poured water. Then why this performance? The invitation? The dinner? Because I wanted you all here. To hear it. Because justice isn't about money. It's about truth. And I wanted that truth spoken aloud with witnesses. Not in court, where everything becomes paperwork. Here. Where it began. Silence fell again. Then Uncle Walter sighed. What do you want, Maddie? She looked at him, the man who once took her to carnivals and taught her to fish. I want you to acknowledge that Sarah existed. That she loved. That she deserved to be remembered, not as a tragedy, but as a woman whose life mattered. And I want you to return what belonged to her. Not to me. To her. She walked to the fireplace and pointed to the dusty frame above it, the only photo of Sarah in this house, hidden behind a vase of fake flowers. I want this photo displayed. I want Brandon to know who his aunt was. I want you to speak of her at dinner, not as a loss, but as the woman who dreamed of a bakery with a balcony and a parrot. Linda closed her eyes. You can have everything you're asking for. The house, the accounts, the business. Take it. But please, leave me at least her memory. Memory isn't your property, Aunt. It's ours. And I won't let you hide it any longer. The next day, Maddie didn't go to the airport. She stayed. Not out of mercy. Not weakness. But because when Linda, after 15 years, called her not for business, not out of duty, but simply asked, "Have you eaten breakfast?" Something inside Maddie cracked. Not broke. Cracked like ice on a pond in spring. She agreed to stay a week. To sort through her mother's things. To find Sarah's old recipes. Maybe, for the first time in years, to feel she had roots, even if twisted by pain. To her surprise, Brandon was the first to offer help. He brought coffee, sat quietly, and said, "Mom, never talked about Aunt Sarah. I didn't even know I had an aunt. Just that photo. I thought it was some distant relative." "She was the best sister in the world," Maddie said. "And the best mother." He nodded. "Tell me about her." And so Maddie began. About how Sarah sang lullabies backward so bad dreams couldn't find their way. How she hid coins in cookies so luck would bake right in. How she dreamed of a house by the lake. Brandon listened. And for the first time in a long while, Maddie felt her story wouldn't die. It would be passed on. But vengeance doesn't let go so easily. 3 days later, while sorting old papers in her mother's closet, Maddie found an envelope. No name. Just a date, 1 month before Sarah's death. Inside, a letter. "Linda, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. Don't blame yourself. You're doing your best. But if you send Maddie to foster care, know this, I left something for her. In the bank, under Sarah Mitchell's name, there's a safe deposit box. The code is Maddie's birthday. It's not money. It's the truth. And I beg you, don't hide it. Let Maddie know who she is. Let her know her father didn't abandon us." He didn't know. Maddie froze. Father. She'd always believed he'd left before she was born. Sarah never spoke of him. Maddie assumed she had no father, only a dream. But now, there was an address, Albuquerque Bank. And one name, scribbled in uneven handwriting. Daniel Reeves. Who was he? Why did Sarah leave this? And why had Linda never given her the letter? Maddie stepped onto the veranda. Below, in the garden, Linda watered roses, the very kind Sarah loved most. She looked older. Fragile. Maddie descended. "Did you know about this letter?" Linda stilled. Then slowly nodded. "Why did you hide it?" "Because I thought the truth would hurt more. I was afraid you'd go looking for him. That he'd reject you again. And you'd already lost so much. You had no right to decide for me." "I know." Maddie studied her, and for the first time in years, saw not an enemy, but a woman who'd also lost everything, and chose the cruelest way to survive, silence. "I'm going to Albuquerque," she said. Linda nodded. "I'll go with you." The road to Albuquerque stretched long. Desert blurred past the window like a dream with no beginning or end. Maddie stayed silent. So did Linda. But in that silence was no hostility, only tension, like before a storm. They reached the bank by evening. The safe deposit box was there. The code, 04-14-08, worked on the first try. Inside lay only one item, a worn notebook and a photograph. In the photo, a young man with warm eyes and a smile eerily like Maddie's. On the back, "Sarah, forgive me. I'll come back. I swear." "Was he military?" Linda asked, noting the uniform. "Probably." They opened the notebook. Pages filled in Sarah's handwriting, not a diary, but unsent letters to Maddie's father. "Daniel, it's been 3 months. No word from you. I don't know if you're alive or dead. But I feel you in her. In Maddie. She has your eyes. Your stubbornness. I'll name her Madeline, just as you wanted. The doctors say it's pneumonia. They won't say it outright, but I know this is the end. I'm afraid to leave her alone. Linda promises to care. But where are you, Daniel? If you're reading this, you've returned. Or maybe Maddie found it herself. If it's you, please, don't abandon her. She's yours. She's our miracle." Maddie closed the notebook. Her hands trembled. "He didn't know," she whispered. "Who?" "My father. He didn't abandon us. He was probably killed. Or MIA. Otherwise, he'd have come back." Linda placed a hand on her shoulder for the first time in 15 years. "We'll find him. Or at least the truth. The next day, they visited the Department of Defense archives. Daniel Reeves was listed as a paratrooper missing in action in Iraq in 2007. His body was never recovered. But there was one lead. In 2009, on the remote island of Tanna in Vanuatu, a Daniel Reeves used a U.S. passport to rent a house for a year. Then silence. He survived, Maddie said, but didn't return. Maybe he didn't know about you, Linda offered. Maybe amnesia. Or he feared Sarah had moved on. No, Maddie cut in. He knew. And he chose not to come back. She booked a ticket to Vanuatu. The next day, Linda didn't try to stop her. Just said, bring me his answer. Whatever it is. Tanna was a place where time stood still. Palms, white sand, bird cries. Maddie found the house, a half-collapsed bungalow on the jungle's edge. And the man sitting on the porch, sharpening a knife. He was nearing 60. Silver hair, a face scarred by time. But the eyes, yes, those were her eyes. Are you Daniel Reeves? She asked. He looked up. Froze. Maddie? She hadn't expected him to recognize her. You knew my name? I knew you'd come. I've dreamed of you every night for 15 years. He stood. Stepped closer. Then stopped as if afraid to scare her. I looked for you. After I came back. But in Phoenix, they said Sarah was dead and you'd disappeared. They told me Linda sent you to a group home. I went there. They said you'd been adopted. I thought you didn't want to know me. You didn't dig deeper? I was afraid that if I found you, you'd say you hated me. For not protecting your mother. For not coming back in time. Maddie stared at him. A storm raged in her chest, anger, pain, grief, and something else. Something soft. I don't hate you, she said. But I need you to know, Mom loved you until her last breath. And she begged you not to abandon me. He dropped to his knees, tears unashamed. Forgive me. She didn't hug him. Didn't say, Dad. But she reached out her hand. And he gripped it like his last anchor. Maddie returned home 3 weeks later, with her father. He'd agreed to come, but only if she truly wanted him to. When they arrived in Tucson, Linda stood on the porch, holding a vase of fresh roses. On the living room wall hung a new photo, Sarah, young and laughing, flanked by her 2 sisters, dreams in her eyes. Welcome home, Linda said. Maddie stepped inside. And for the first time in a long while, she felt it, vengeance was over. Life was just beginning.